How's it going, Knicks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Fireside Knicks. I'm your host, Dylan Backer, and today I'm joined by my brother and co host, Justin Backer. And today we're going to talk about the FIBA Cup a little bit. There's not much going on right now in the offseason, but there is the FIBA World Cup, and there are three Knicks players taking part in it: Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart on Team USA, and RJ Barrett's on Team Canada. So we're kind of just going to talk about, how they're performing in the tournament so far. We know it's not over yet. I'm pretty sure they're still in the first round of the tournament, if I'm not mistaken. So we're just going to talk about a little bit of how they're doing and what to expect going forward. So with that being said, I'm just going to pass it off to Justin, let him start this off. So go for it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about Team USA first a little bit because this is where like the good stuff is. So you know, Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart have been pretty much as advertised with Team USA. I know Team USA has been kind of spearheaded by Anthony Edwards a little bit, but Jalen Brunson's been very consistent. He averaged 11 points for the first three games, which is pretty solid considering he's not the primary ball handler or anything. His efficiency's been fine. He only had 4 points in their last game against Montenegro, but that's okay. They still won by a lot. They still won, so I mean, it's okay. And Josh Hart, he had a really big game against Greece involving, 11 rebounds and 5 assists. That was a really nice game from Hart. Very good all around game. He had 12 rebounds against Jordan. So, he's still being that spark plug, I guess, if you will, the tenacious rebounding that he is and everything. So, that's great to see. And, Team USA has been rolling. They're 4-0. They're undefeated in the tournament right now so far. They play, I believe, Lithuania tomorrow. So hopefully they come out with another win and continue to prove their dominance, I guess, in the world. So now on to the not so fun stuff. We're going to talk about Team Canada a little bit. Now, the first three games for Team Canada look great. They won those games in blowout fashion. However, they just had a upset loss to Brazil the other day, in which RJ Barrett only shot 1 for 8 in that game, and the only basket he made was in the last 5 seconds, I believe, which basically just made the final score look less ugly. So that meant absolutely nothing. He was useless in that game, and it's maddening with RJ because he's still consistently inconsistent. That's something we've been saying about him his entire career, and this trend is just continuing in the FIBA World Cup. In their very first game against France, they won that game by like 30 points, but RJ had 5 points and he was just 1 for 10 from the field. Like, that's not good. Then the next two games, he was fantastic. He had 17 points on 7 for 12 against Lebanon, and then he had 22 points on 9 of 14 versus Latvia. So, and then after that, that's when he had the 4 point game against Brazil just the other day. So it's very maddening with him that he's still inconsistent like this. I don't know. I feel like this is just who he is at this point. So I don't know. It's kind of maddening. And Canada is now facing elimination partly because of this. So, RJ is supposed to be, one of the top dogs on this team. And he's coming up small in big moments, which is not very encouraging if you're a Knicks fan. It can't be. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's not fun to look at, I guess. But yeah, that's where things are right now. So I want to hear your reaction to all of that.
Right. So I'm going to start off with RJ. The consistently inconsistent thing that you mentioned, I think that's like the perfect illusion. I know I've been the one saying that, but it's a sentiment that you and I both kind of share with this because, RJ's been, it's not like he's been bad in the FIBA Cup. We want to make that clear. He's not, he's had a couple good games, but the games that you just brought up where he put up the dud against France and another dud against Brazil, those are frustrating because you kind of want him to be consistent all throughout. Yes, I know basketball players are going to have bad games. It happens all the time. Jalen Brunson even had a bad game in the tournament at some point. Every player's going to have a bad game. But we've seen this too much with RJ where he'll have a couple good games and then have a real stinker and then go have like a good game or something like that and then have like a meh game. He'll never be like consistently, having good performances and then once in a while having a dud. No, it's like he'll have a good game, have an okay game, and put up a dud. We don't like that. We want to see consistency out of RJ, and I feel like we're failing to see that right now. Now, of course, international play is different than the NBA. Maybe he's just trying to work on some new things while in the FIBA Cup right now, and that could be why that he's having some of these bad performances. But at the same time, when you're representing your country, you're on the international stage, not even the national stage, international. The whole world is watching you, right? So you want to show what you can do and how good you really can be to other people outside of America who might not watch the NBA like that. if you're not playing as well, then you're not putting a good image on yourself. That's all I'm gonna say. And I don't want to make this all about, oh, RJ sucks. No, I don't think RJ sucks. I just think that I want to see some more consistency out of him, out of good play. I don't like seeing bad performances. I don't like seeing duds. I want to see him. It seemed like at times he was leading that Canada team, and then like you said, that game that they lost, that's a bad loss. That's a game they should have won, and now they're facing elimination. It would look pretty bad if that team ends up being eliminated, considering that they're kind of one of the favorites. They're one of the teams in the tournament that has the most NBA talent. I'm pretty sure they also have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Jamal Murray on that team alongside RJ. So it's not just like RJ and a bunch of other guys. No, it's they have talent, but when your best players are not performing well, that's gonna be an issue. And we saw that last season, throughout the season before Jalen Brunson kind of really took that extra leap in the second half of last season. They were relying on RJ quite a bit, and they were kind of floating 500 because not much was happening with RJ. He was starting off the season slow. He had a couple good games, then he went back. It was just very up and down. We don't want that, right? We want to see consistency. So best I can hope for is that he just turns it around in their elimination game and kind of plays a little more consistent if they do advance in the tournament and continue to play. So that's really all we can really say about it right now, because obviously it's not the Knicks regular season right now, so we can't rag on it too much right now. But the signs haven't been 100% encouraging. There have been some encouraging things, yes, but there have also been some things to be alarmed about. You could say that about anybody, but we have to just talk about it with RJ because, quite frankly, that he's had a couple games that have just been flat out duds, right? And moving on a bit to the more positive stuff you mentioned about Brunson and Hart. You know, Brunson's been doing his thing. Yes, I know I mentioned he had a bad game earlier in the tournament, but every player is going to have one bad game. It's when you have multiple bad games that we can start to get concerned a little bit. That's why we highlighted that with RJ. But with Brunson, he's been doing his thing. He hasn't been like the number one option, like you said. Anthony Edwards has been clearly like the best player out of anyone in that Team USA team, so he's been the one getting the highest shot diet. But Jalen Brunson's been holding his own. The shots he's getting, he's taking great shots. He's getting high percentage looks. He's knocking them down here. Josh Hart, he started off the tournament coming off the bench, kind of being just like that extra piece that, would do a couple of extra things. Steve Kerr loved him a lot so much that he decided to start him in their last game. Josh Hart is now starting. Now there's two New York Knicks starting in that Team USA lineup. Now, when you're seeing Josh Hart's name plugged into that lineup full of all-star caliber players, that's a huge confidence boost, not only for Josh Hart, but that's a big thing for Knicks fans to see as well, that the Knicks really have this guy who's like really that good to where he can play pretty much anywhere at any time on the court. And the Knicks have the luxury of having him come off the bench. I mean, that's how deep their team is. That's very good, right? And I know there was a quote here that Steve Kerr had said, about Josh Hart, and he said, quote, he has this relentless approach, something I've noticed since the first day I met him. He was kind of echoing Jalen Brunson's sentiments a little bit about how, he was really doing his thing and just being very good at what he does, the rebounding, the defense, the passing, the shooting, all that stuff. He's literally like a kind of a jack of all trades type player. It's not like he's like elite at one thing. Maybe you could say he's elite at rebounding for his position, but outside of that, it's not like he's an elite scorer or an elite passer. He's just very good at all that. But you absolutely love that out of a guy that comes off the bench for you, for the New York Knicks at least, but for Team USA, it's been so effective that now he's starting. And like you said, Team USA cruising. They can make that lineup change and see if it makes them even better. And sure enough, they're still winning their games by like 30, 40 points. So clearly there hasn't been any negative impacts to adjust in that starting lineup. If anything, it's only gotten better. And I think having, like I mentioned, there's two New York Knicks now in that Team USA starting lineup. I think for them, that's huge that, there are two guys that have good chemistry with each other already. So, it'll just add more just balance overall. I think it's a good decision. I think it's awesome that we're also seeing that the top coaches in the league are recognizing the Knicks talent level of these players, starting Jalen Brunson over Tyrese Halliburton, now starting Josh Hart. I think that's phenomenal to see. I think it's an encouraging sign for the Knicks. I know I mentioned a positive and a negative here in my point, but I think it's fair to, be a little transparent and kind of have both sides of it. But I kind of just want to hear your thoughts on what I just said and, if you got anything more to elaborate on, so go for it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said, especially the part where you said, the top coaches are recognizing the Knicks talent level. Steve Kerr is one of the greatest head coaches of all time, really, one of the top 15, 10 head coaches really ever. And the fact that he's, willing to start two Knicks players, not just one, two Knicks players in his starting lineup for the FIBA World Cup is a pretty big deal. You know what I mean? I know it may not seem like a big deal on the surface, But that's a big deal, that one of the best coaches of all time sees what we see really. And I remember Eric Spoelstra had even, he's on that staff too. He had said a whole bunch of great things about both players too. Even last season in the playoffs, after we lost to them, Spoelstra said, how is Brunson not all NBA? This, that. You know what I mean? So, it's very encouraging to see that, very knowledgeable people in this field are recognizing the talent that the Knicks have. I think that's great. And, as far as the RJ struggles, I definitely agree with you. Like I said, consistently inconsistent. I know it's the FIBA World Cup. He may be trying other things, but we see this in the NBA too. This isn't like just some one off thing where, oh, he's having a stinker in the FIBA Cup. He'll be fine. No, he's had this problem his entire NBA career. So I'm a little bit more concerned about that than maybe you are. But yeah, so that's kind of my final thoughts on everything. Really, I hopefully Team Canada doesn't get eliminated in their next game. I mean that would kind of suck to not be able to see RJ again until the regular season starts, or the preseason, I should say. So hopefully they don't get eliminated. Hopefully RJ doesn't stink up the place again. So yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts on everything. And yeah, I'm gonna pass it over to you.
Yeah, no, I pretty much second everything you just said, especially the RJ thing. I want to touch on it again. You know, in the FIBA World Cup, that's the opportunity for NBA players at least to kind of, refine their skill set a little bit, kind of try out some things that weren't working for them in the NBA. Yes, on the international stage, you're playing for a World Cup, obviously, but you're getting a chance to do things you hadn't done before in the NBA. So maybe that's what RJ is doing, but like you said, it's a valid concern to have because this is what he was doing last season. All last season it was like, when is RJ Barrett going to fully figure it out? And then we would think he did finally, when he'd have a couple good games, and then he'd have a bad game. And so far, that's what we're witnessing in the FIBA Cup. And yes, it's only been a few games, so I don't want to rush to a conclusion yet. And that's why I really hope what you just said, that they don't get eliminated, because I do want to see more of RJ in the tournament, and I want to see if he can kind of turn in some more consistency. I really don't want him and his squad to get eliminated, in the first round of that tournament. I want to see more of him. I really do. I think out of all the Knicks players that we discussed today, I need to see more of RJ. We all know by now that Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart are positive, net positives 100% of the time, or not 100% of the time, because that's never true. But more often than not, they're net on the court. For both the New York Knicks and clearly Team USA. RJ Barrett, he's been a net positive for Canada. I don't want to act like he's been. It's an alarming thing to see when you want him to turn in consistent performances with the New York Knicks next season. So I really want to see more of RJ in the tournament. Out of all the players that we discussed, like I said, I need to see more of him. I need to. I need to see if he's really gonna kind of figure things out a little bit, make some adjustments on his own, or if he's just like what you said, if this is just who he is, where he's gonna be constantly having these up and down performances, which obviously we do not want to see. We want to see more consistency out of RJ. But with that being said, we'd love to hear what you guys got to say in the comment section below. We know it's early in the FIBA Cup, so we'll probably make more videos when it gets closer to the end of the tournament. But with that being said, we would love to hear, just what you guys think about Hart, Brunson, Barrett, especially. We would love to hear what you guys got to say about those guys. If you agree with us or you disagree with us, let us know in the comment section below. And you can also follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course this YouTube page. The audio version of these podcasts are going to be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so make sure you give us a 5-star rating on those. I'm Dylan Becker. That's my brother Justin. And with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next Fireside Knicks episode. Peace out.